Alright guys, it's time for the Gambit guide. I'm a few days late on this because my PC had a component go into critical failure, which set off a chain reaction internally, leading to having to replace my CPU, my SSD, and my power supply all last week. So it was a heck of a week. I'm glad I survived, but we got back in business. We grinded Gambit to Lord and beyond that. And now I've got a lot to unpack for you today, so let's not waste any time. I will tell you up front, by the way, Gambit, very, very fast Lord grind. I think he is the second fastest. I've got 32 Lord characters now. He's the second fastest Lord grind I've ever had. I think he was 17 hours. The fastest was Cloak and Dagger at like 16 and a half. So he's a really quick Lord grind. If you're trying to get him up to the Lord status, know that it won't take you very much time. Most characters are around 22 to 28 hours, depending on the hero. So he's pretty quick. But with most characters in the game, you know, there's a simple truth that the better you understand their kit, the better you'll be with that character. And that's definitely true of Gambit, but I think the thing that will really set you apart as a Gambit player is actually sort of the inverse of that. And that's to say, the better you understand every other hero in the game, the better you'll play as Gambit. So Gambit is like the hero who is tailor-made for people who have really good game sense. It's your understanding of the kits of your opponents, you know, their cooldowns, and your level of anticipation and knowing what's coming in the next few seconds. That's the kind of stuff that will make you an absolutely insanely good Gambit. And that's really why he's a 4-star hero. It's the combination of his complexity, but also the amount of knowledge and foresight required to take full advantage of his abilities. So I really want you to focus in on this third eye kind of element to Gambit as we break down his kit today and start asking the question, okay, what does this mean for the future? What does this mean for 3 seconds from now? How could I leverage this in anticipation for what's about to come, right? Think about that as we break down his kit. And I'll definitely be sure to give you practical applications as well. But just remember that in order to be good at Gambit, there are 3 things that you need to do. And you just write these 3 words down if you're taking notes. Write these 3 things down. In order of importance here, they are heal, cleanse, kill. Okay? Heal, cleanse, and kill. This is the holy trinity of Gambit gameplay. When you get those 3 elements firing on all cylinders, then you'll be a wildly good Gambit. And I'll show you matches in here where I have the most healing in the match, the most kills in the match, and I'm completely nullifying several enemy ultimates with the click of a couple of buttons. I will heal, I will cleanse debuffs, and I will kill. Alright, let's dive into his kit. I'll try to hit all these abilities quickly so we can get to the practical application as quickly as possible. Gambit has a lot of abilities. He actually has 2 pages of abilities to cycle through, but don't let that intimidate you. It's actually just 2 sides of the same coin. Really, it's just 2 sides of the same coin. So let's start with the primary fire. Gambit throws out 3 cards that fan out horizontally. The closer you are to the target, the more likely you are to land all 3 cards. They have incredibly far range, and there is no damage drop-off at range. But you'll likely only land like 1 of the 3 cards in a single target from far away. The cards can both heal allies and damage enemies. You're looking at 28 healing per card that hits an ally and 20 damage per card that hits an ally. That's actually insane healing output on a single target, by the way. One of the fastest ways to generate ultimate energy as Gambit is just to pocket a friendly tank, a friendly Vanguard. You hug their butt tightly and use them as a meat shield by standing really close behind them and just dump massive healing, single target healing into them to keep them sustained while supercharging your ultimate energy in the process. And since you do more healing than you do damage with your primary, Gambit charges his ult much faster when you prioritize the healing side of things rather than prioritizing the damage side of things. There's some nuance to that. Gambit is a really good slayer when it comes to like finding a single target on the flanks to take out or extending past the enemy front line and taking out a healer. He is really good at that, and we'll unpack that later in the video. But as a general rule up front, just remember that Gambit is a healer first, he is a killer second. But regardless of your goal in the moment, your output, be it healing or damage, will be much greater if you are closer to your target. So Gambit is not really a true backline hero. One of the best ways you can elevate your Gambit gameplay immediately is by being closer to the action. It's just one quick change that will give you better output. You'll have better healing, you'll have better damage. He's not a backline hero. He's best in the midline, closer to the action. And his other abilities make that abundantly clear because of their range, their AoEs, all of that stuff. So moving on. Gambit has a slam attack with his staff. It's called Bayou Bash. It has 2 charges and a cooldown of 8 seconds per charge. It's his right-click ability on PC, left trigger on controllers. This is an extremely important ability. Just like his primary fire, this ability can both heal and it can deal damage. It's very short range. It only reaches 5 meters in all directions. But any ally, including yourself, affected by this slam will receive 60 HP of healing, okay? Now that's less than hitting someone with all 3 of your cards directly with your primary attack, but the trade-off here is that it hits everyone around you and yourself instead of just being a single target heal. So you may find yourself in a moment where you have allies on all sides of you, and you really want to dump a big burst of AoE healing out there. This is a good option then, just slamming your staff down and healing everyone around you at once, including yourself. But it's also going to deal 60 damage to any enemy in that radius as well. That's why you should always, this is important, always use this attack. Always slip in a Bayou Bash attack during any 1v1 you find yourself in. But don't lead with it. Do it as your second or third attack. I'll show you a combo later in the video. But you don't want to lead with it because if you lead with it, you miss out on the healing aspect of it. You want to use it as your second or third attack because it's a total of a 120 hit point swing. It's positive 60, technically 63 right now. But it's a positive 60 HP for you and a negative 60 HP for the enemy that you're fighting. That's a huge swing in a fight, and it makes all the difference. It's also going to be part of your core combo that I'll get to later in the video. Next up, Gambit has a dash ability with 2 charges with a cooldown of 12.5 seconds per charge. This is your shift on PC, circle or B on controllers. You dash in the direction you are looking for 8 meters. This is great for repositioning, good for escaping trouble, or chasing down or pouncing on a target that you mean to eliminate. To be honest, I seldom use this dash on its own. I do sometimes, but you don't go super far and it's got a long cooldown, so I prefer to save these charges and use them differently. That's because this dash can be augmented by coupling it with your Bayou Bash that we just talked about, your Staff Slam. If you dash and then immediately use your Staff Slam, your Bayou Bash attack, you catapult yourself forward by spinning your staff for another 4 meters for a combined travel distance of 12 meters, right? You'll spin your staff, you'll continue traveling. There are a few things going on here. First, you can change directions mid-dash with this augmented version, where the standard dash just goes in a straight line forward 8 meters wherever you're looking when you cast it. This one, you can turn as if you're in flight, okay? You can go around corners with this maneuver. You can like circle enemies with this maneuver and hit them extra times. But just like the Bayou Bash, you still get the benefits of both damage and healing. Okay, 2 sides of the same coin, or I guess with Gambit, 2 sides of the same playing card would be a better analogy. But on the healing side, you'll do a total of 75 healing to yourself while dealing 3 instances of 25 healing to allies you collide with during this dash. So I definitely recommend going through or near allies with this ability as much as possible. But on the flip side, you also deal 3 instances of 25 damage during this maneuver as well, for a potential total of 75 damage on a target if you turn and stay close to them during your dash. There are so many applications to this ability. The downside, obviously, is that it uses 2 ability charges to perform it. But the most common way I use this ability is to retreat and cover a lot of ground to get out of a sticky situation, like maybe a Jeff ult, a Thor ult, a Psylocke ult, or a team fight where my teammates go down and I just need to get the heck out of there. That's the most common way to use it. The other primary way I use it is to soar past the enemy front line and into the back line, okay? A decent Gambit should not lose a duel to a backline healer. You just shouldn't, okay? You should either win those fights or force them to flee. So when I see an opportunity, I'll often use this spinning dash to soar past the enemy vanguards and well into their backline where I can absolutely stomp on healers. In this match here, we had triple supports. So it freed me up to really focus on my offensive abilities to get picks as Gambit. I ended this match with still the most healing on my team, but also I had the most final hits in the whole lobby, including the DPS and tanks from both teams. That's because I was intentional about surging past the enemy front line and into their back line so I could pick up key picks to tee up a team wipe for our team. But like I said, you can use this in more specific situations as well. I'll use it to perform a burst of healing through a line of allies when my healing cards are on cooldown, which we'll talk about next. I'll use it when my ammo hits 0 and I don't want to reload just yet. Maybe I leave an enemy just really low health, and instead of going through a reload animation and giving them the opportunity to potentially get some healing in, I'll just dash through the enemy to finish them off instead. Lots of ways to use this. Just read the room and decide when it's appropriate. Okay, now we get into Gambit's many ways of consuming his currency called Sleight of Hand. He's got 4 Sleight of Hand charges. You can see them in the middle of your screen. They replenish themselves over time. So you need to be intentional about how and when you use them, because it takes 8 seconds to fully recharge 1 stack of Sleight of Hand. Now you can choose to either consume a charge of Sleight of Hand to activate a Healing Hearts deck, or you can consume that same charge to activate a Breaking Spades deck. The Hearts deck is a healing mode. The Spades deck is a damage mode. So let's start with the Healing Hearts. When you press E on PC, it's the L1 on controller, you activate Healing Hearts for 6 seconds. Okay, now just remember, it takes 8 seconds to fully cool down a charge of Sleight of Hand, which is pretty close to the 6 seconds that you'll get as a duration. So one general practice you can use is just to try to always have a card active. Right? Maybe not when there's no action, but right as a fight happens, choose which one, whether you're activating your Healing Hearts or you're activating your damaging, your Spades deck. Just have one active, because then you'll start cooling down your 4th currency again. And worst case scenario, your time runs out. You got the full benefit of it for 6 seconds. You wait 2 seconds, you got a full charge ready to go again. It's no big deal. But try to have one of these decks active at all times during a fight. Now, the Healing Hearts deck. During those 6 seconds that it's active, Gambit gains self-healing for 20 HP per second. That's it, by the way, that's it. Some people mistakenly believed that activating Healing Hearts increased your healing output to allies. It does not. The only thing this does is it activates moderate self-healing. That's it. But it also opens up 2 other abilities that you can choose to activate as well during those 6 seconds. If you activate one of them, you will terminate the duration of those 6 seconds, by the way. You will deactivate your deck and use this other ability instead. So you've got 2 of them. Let's say you've used 1 charge of Sleight of Hand to activate Healing Hearts, but now you consume another charge of Sleight of Hand to either perform a Bridge Boost or a Purifying Pickup. They are 2 different things. Let's start with Bridge Boost. This is performed by hitting E again, right? It's just double tap E on PC. It's L1 again while Healing Hearts is active on controller. You'll throw out a deck of cards to any targeted ally. If no ally is targeted, it will pick one within range for you. If none are within range, you can actually bounce it off the ground or off of a wall to ricochet the deck around a corner to an ally that you otherwise cannot see. So this is really helpful to know, because sometimes someone like a dive hero or a Thor, a dive tank, something like that, they'll go around the corner to pick a fight. And you'll see through the wall that they're at critical health, and you can't see them. And you're like, they need healing right now. You could quickly double tap E or whatever your Healing Hearts is, and that'll send you into Healing Hearts. It'll throw out the deck and just aim at the floor, anywhere or a wall that has direct access to that player. So I can't see them, so I'll shoot the floor or I'll shoot the wall that I can see. It'll bounce off that wall and go track to them. It's a great way to get some free healing. You can also ricochet it off of other allies as well. So if another ally has line of sight on them, but you don't, you could like ping it off the ally you can see to bounce it to the ally you cannot see. Does that make sense? But anyways, when you throw this deck out, it will automatically bounce between allies, and each time it contacts an ally, it will heal them for 50 HP, but it'll also give them a 4-second buff to all incoming healing sources. During that time, any other healing they receive will be increased by 15%. So this is a great way to keep your front line up and keep them healthy. You toss out a Bridge Boost, they share a bunch of healing on the bounces, and now you just pump them full of cards with your primary fire. And you're talking about several hundred points of healing in just a few seconds. It's wild. Now again, one thing to note here is that as soon as you activate your bridge boost or any of the other alternative abilities that you unlock with the decks, it will automatically reload your primary ammo. So you could dump all 7 shots of your primary and then throw out a bridge boost and then keep shooting another 7 shots for uninterrupted healing. So let's say you empty your magazine, they're still not full health, they're still taking damage. Instead of going through a reload, you throw out the bridge boost, they get a big jolt of healing, and it reloads your primary, and you can just keep dumping primary into them. It's a ton of sustained healing. Now the second ability you can use while in your Healing Hearts mode is called Purifying Pickup. It's a huge deal. This is a huge deal. This is one of the biggest assets you have in your kit. It's essentially an alt negator. Just a way of saying no thank you to an enemy's entire ultimate ability depending on the ability. But there are a ton of different applications besides just ultimates. We'll get into all that. This is performed by pressing F while your Healing Hearts deck is active, or R1 on controller. On cast, you throw out a sort of like a half-moon shaped cluster of cards in front of you, up to 15 meters. On impact, they explode and heal allies and cleanses them of all status effects. And I do mean all status effects. So Groot drops his ultimate, pulls all of your team into one location. You toss this down on him, and everyone will be able to move freely again and get a jolt of healing. Angela, she ultimates, she drops her spear, it tethers everyone to her spear. You just drop this Purifying Pickup, everyone can break free of it and walk away. I use this to counter Eye of Agamotto. I even love to use this against Bucky's, right? They launch up into the air and then they drop their ult on someone and you wait for them to come crashing down onto a teammate and you instantly purify them. Why? Because Bucky can, this is important, he can only chain his ultimate if someone he marks with the slam dies, okay? But if you remove that mark, he's got no way of chaining his ultimate anymore. It's done, it's over with. He can't even chain it, even if he still gets the kill on the person that he marked originally. As long as we cleanse that mark, it's done, it's over with. But there are other things you can cleanse besides just ultimates. So let's say Venom dives on your back line. Any good Venom will immediately send out his tentacles to grab everyone. Now, after a couple of seconds, they will snap and they'll deal massive damage to your team. So as soon as he dives, you ready your Purifying Pickup, and then you drop it as soon as those tentacles come out. So he dives, you hit E to activate your Hearts deck, and then as soon as those tentacles go out, then you hit F to do your explosion that cleanses everybody of those tentacles, and you've basically negated his entire dive, right? His burst damage is heavily dependent on that attack. Let's say you're next to a ledge or a cliff, and an enemy Angela starts flying in. Chances are pretty good she's looking to grab a teammate of yours and carry them off the map, so you anticipate this. You have your Healing Hearts deck active, and as soon as you hear that audio cue, right, of her dash, it sounds sort of like Iron Man flying, that's when you toss this out, this Purifying Pickup, and it'll cancel out her tackle and save your teammate from an embarrassing death. This all goes back to my opening statement about Gambit, right? Being an insanely good Gambit is less about how well you know his kit. That'll come with time. That'll come with reps. It's more about how well you know everyone else's kits and their strengths and their abilities. If you know what to look for, then you can anticipate what the enemy will do, and you can have your proper deck activated and ready to go so you can respond at a moment's notice and save your teammates time and time again during a match. In this particular match, it was 3 ultimates deep before the Thing decided to switch to Magneto because he got tired of dropping his ultimate and me immediately cleansing it, and he would get no mileage out of his ult, and eventually he decided to change characters. He's like, crap, I can't use my ultimate, may as well change. So one quick note about this purifying ability, by the way, I found it works best to target the ground near your teammates, like in between their feet, like, in between targets. Because this way the cards will end up detonating like right where your teammates are instead of running the risk of flying past them. So you'll get better splash healing, better hit registration on your purification on teammates who need your cleanse if you aim for the feet. So aim low, right where your teammates are. That way the cards don't go past them. Does that make sense? All right, that's all of our healing card abilities. Let's move on to damage. If instead of hitting E to activate your Healing Hearts deck, instead you hit F or R1 on controller, you'll activate your Breaking Spades deck. Now, just like Healing Hearts, it lasts for 6 seconds. During that time, you'll get a 15% damage boost, taking your primary attack damage up from 60 damage potentially to 69 damage. Nice. That also applies to your Bayou Bash attack if you use that while buffed. Now, just like the Healing Hearts deck, while Breaking Spades is active, you also gain access to 2 new attacks. Each of them will also cost you another sleight of hand to activate, but they're pretty cool. The first one's called Explosive Trick. You hit F again on PC or R1 on controller to throw forward a powerful exploding card that deals 70 damage in a 5-meter spherical radius. So basically the same amount of damage as a standard attack with Breaking Spades active. So it's not like this is the thing you do when you want to do big damage, right? It's got a different application. The difference here is that this explosion, this special ability, it causes a healing debuff, making the target receive 25% less healing from any healing source for 4 seconds. So when should you use this, right? This is great when your team is trying to focus down an enemy tank, for example, but they have a healer behind them that's, keeping them alive. You hit them with this attack to help mitigate their incoming healing while your team focuses them down. You could also use this against some supports in their support ultimates like Invisible Woman or Mantis if you wanted to increase your chances of having your team kill them out of their ultimate. I like this ability for sure. It's great when you're fighting alongside your team, okay? But, this is important, I don't tend to use it too much when I'm fighting solo against an enemy. Like a 1v1 duel, right? I won't really use this too much unless I'm using it as a closer attack to just seal the deal, final damage. But I don't like relying on it too heavily in solo fights, mainly because it immediately deactivates your Breaking Spades deck, meaning you lose the damage buff, okay? All these secondary card abilities, they cancel your active deck, be it Healing Hearts or Breaking Spades. So don't fall into the trap of just double tapping F or double tapping R1 on controller just to throw this explosive attack out. If your goal is to deal good damage, this is a bad move because you just used 2 sleight of hand charges, half of your charges, to basically do the same amount of damage as just a regular primary attack. That's bad budgeting of your key currency. So like I said, this ability is best used to help your team burst down key targets. Otherwise, you're better off activating your damage buff. You're getting 6 seconds of extra damage to your primary attack and your Bayou Bash attacks. It's much better use of that currency. But let's move on to the other Spades attack called Bidding Barrage. This is performed by hitting E on PC or L1 on controller while your Breaking Spades deck is active. It's a very situational attack, okay? I don't rely on it too heavily, except for when it will be genuinely beneficial. So this is the mirror attack to your Purifying Pickup ability, but instead of launching an arc of healing explosive cards, you launch an arc of exploding damage cards in all directions, all around you, okay? They deal 70 damage on impact. Yes, this is the same as an empowered primary attack. This is about splash damage, though, not single target damage. So not only are you dealing 70 damage explosions all around you, but you're also launching up any enemy that is hit by this ability as well, which will disrupt their movement abilities. But one thing to remember is that the launch up debuff disables ultimate abilities momentarily as well. So remember, Gambit is best used when you can anticipate what the enemy is going to do. So I like to use this ability in big team brawls because then I'm going to do damage in all directions to help all of my teammates around me in their individual fights. But I'm also going to launch up their opponents, helping swing the fight in their favor by 70 HP. But I'm also going to get lucky sometimes, and the attack will land right as one of these enemies tries to activate their ultimate in this big team brawl, and it interrupts their cast, and it sends them back to 50% charge. Honestly, it's kind of wild. But again, it's all about knowing when the moment calls for it, okay? I use this ability, less than all of the other ones, but when I do use it properly, it's a big deal. So it's not to say it's a bad ability, it's just really situational. Okay, let's talk about the ultimate, and then we can start tying everything together here. Gambit's ultimate is called Ragin' Royal Flush. Before we talk about what it does, let's talk about targeting the ultimate first, because it's really, 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 really important, okay? When you activate the ultimate, you will supremely buff every ally in your vision. In your vision. I repeat, you must be able to visually see your allies or they will not be affected by your ultimate. So, do not pop this ultimate when you are in front of your team. Do not activate it when most of your team is around a corner or around a pillar. So when you want to activate your ultimate, you drop into the backline. You drop back into the backline, you activate it when most possible allies are visible, and then you catapult yourself to the front line with your big, easy impact dash. Now, once you've activated your ultimate, here's what it does. It lasts for 10 seconds, which is pretty dang long for an ultimate. It purifies all debuffs like your Purifying Pickup ability does on cast. It increases everyone's movement speed by 50%. It grants them a jump boost, so they jump higher as well. It also adds a constant healing buff of 75 health per second after an initial instant health jolt of 100 HP on cast. Everyone affected also gets a buff to their abilities, where they will start setting off kinetic explosions that also deal single target damage to further increase their damage output. Your primary attack as Gambit during your ultimate will deal 72 damage for comparison instead of 60. Now you'll notice in the gameplay when I activate the ult, I go on offense. Everyone on your team should go on offense when you activate your ult. Now I prefer to wait until the enemy team is fully committed to a fight. That way I don't want to use it before they're all fully engaged, because if I do, then they're likely to drop back. They'll have more time to respond with an ultimate of their own. But if I wait for them to be fully engaged, that's when I pop this ultimate, and they're stuck. They're stuck in that fight. They have to take it. We've got a movement speed boost. They can't run away at that point. Now, when leveraged properly, your team becomes a tidal wave for 10 seconds. But your goal as Gambit is to use your movement speed and your jump boost during your ultimate to get into the enemy backline and eliminate at least one healer. If you can pick one, ideally you're going to pick the one that is most likely to get their ultimate next. So whoever ulted most recently, target the other one. Target the opposite one, right? Once you get that one off the table, you're more than likely going to dominate this team fight. But another reason why you want to tag as many allies as possible with this ultimate is that you're going to give every ally you hit, with your ultimate I mean, an extra 30% boost to their ultimate energy gained for 10 seconds. So they're all going to get a huge bump in ult energy as they're dealing damage during your ult duration. But one thing to note here, you have a choice in your ult. As your ult is running out, you can do one of two things. You can either use the last 2 seconds or so to retreat back to your midline again, or you could go bear hug an enemy. Why would you do that? Well, when your ultimate runs out, you and everyone else on your team will set off an explosion around you when the ult expires. And this explosion deals 65 damage. So if you go bear hug someone and just shoot them with a primary shot and then you blow up on them, that's 137 damage right there. That's nothing to sniff at. Like, holy cow, guys. That's a full-blown 1,500 word essay of things your ultimate can do. It does a lot. All recharge rate boost, health on cast, health over time, kinetic explosions, jump boost, movement speed boost, purifies all debuffs on cast. Like, geez, man, how many other ultimates in the game have this many effects? Seriously, it's nuts. All right, let's get into some combos and applications here. I know this is a long video, so snap back to reality here with me for a second. If you were spacing out, pay attention real quick, okay? This is a core combo I want you to learn. There are lots of combinations you can use as Gambit, but this one is really simple. It's straightforward, highly effective, and it should be your bread and butter, okay? It's primary fire, melee, staff slam, okay? Primary attack, melee, Bayou bash. So when you run up on someone, you just hit those 3 inputs real fast, and you'll do big damage while also applying some self-healing. With no cards active at all, this is still going to deal 150 damage straight up. Just a quick 1-second combo that deals 150 damage, that's half of Punisher's health right there. It's simple to learn, easy to perform. Your primary does 60, your melee does 30 damage, your slam does another 60 and heals you for 60 at the end of this combo. This is also going to generate a nice chunk of ultimate energy since you're dealing damage and applying healing all in one fell swoop. Now, if you activate your Breaking Spades deck first by hitting F, and then you do this combo, now you're looking at 172 damage. That's heckin' nice. And just remember, you're a healer. You're not a DPS hero. So that's like really, really respectable for a healer. And that self-healing is also going to help you tip the scales in your favor when you're dueling DPS heroes with this combo. That's why in a lot of the gameplay, you'll see me break off from the team momentarily just to secure a kill against a duelist and then rejoin the fray. Gambit's really, really good at that. He's actually really good at 1v1s. So instead of pinging divers for someone else to go take care of, you can just go duel him as Gambit, and I love that about him. I will say this, Daredevil is the one you gotta look out for because he just constantly generates bonus HP for himself, and you can't offset that, okay? He's the one I would tell you, get some help with this guy. If the Daredevil clearly sucks, then you're fine. But if he's even a little bit decent at Daredevil, he can just out-heal you in a duel, so just be aware of that. Another combo you can use that does big damage but is really, really costly is Shoot Slam, Shoot Slam. If you activate Breaking Spades first, this combo is going to do 276 damage, right? It's a lot. It's F, Shoot Slam, Shoot Slam. Big damage, but it uses both of your Bayou Bash charges, so use it sparingly. All in all, it's helpful to think of Gambit sort of like a wave. Sometimes you're behind another wave that's closer to the shore, and you're pushing it towards the shore so it can crash against the shore. And sometimes it's your turn to leap forward onto the shore and come crashing down on it before receding back into the ocean so you can gather yourself again. Your primary goal is to play support, right? Charge your ultimate quickly by supporting your teammates and healing them and pocketing your tanks from close behind them. Then you extend past them and you bring the pain on your enemies before going back to support. But it's also worth noting that when you're in a triple healer composition, you can lean much more heavily into your Breaking Spades deck and extend into the enemy ranks much more frequently to get picks without worrying about leaving your team without much needed healers in the meantime. With Gambit, it's all about reading the room, anticipate what's coming so you know when to cleanse, take stock of the enemy team composition and make a mental note of all the debuffs they can apply and when and where they're most likely to activate them. I would encourage you to try almost always have one of your decks active. If you're anticipating a cleanse, have your Hearts deck active so you can start cooling down your next currency while still having 6 seconds to respond if needed with a special Hearts deck ability like your cleanse or your bridge boost for burst healing. If you think your healing is fine, and with just your primary fire for now, go ahead and activate your Spades deck so you can get some extra damage in and generate some extra ult energy in the meantime. All right, what do you say we wrap this up? Okay, so to sum it all up, Gambit is a hero who was designed for game masters. If you've played a lot of Rivals, you've played a lot of heroes, you're familiar with their kits, then you have the prerequisites already established to be a killer Gambit player. Mileage on Gambit will vary, but if you're a knowledgeable player regarding this game, then you can potentially be a massive difference maker for your team as Gambit. I hope you found this guide helpful and interesting. If you have anything else that you want to add, then feel free to say so down below in the comments section. And if I may, if you're still listening and you're still locked into the video here at the very end, I just want to encourage you, and know this will sound a little offbeat, find creative ways of supporting your communities, as many families in our communities right now are fighting hunger, where they previously had some assurances in place to help with that. So me, my wife, my kids, we all like to volunteer at our local food pantries and with local organizations to pack meals for families who struggle financially to provide regular meals for their kids. If you don't know how you can help, I'll leave a link in the pinned comment and in the description to a local nonprofit that I partner with personally with my family every month. It's called Hand to Hand. So they identify kids specifically who aren't guaranteed to have meals on the weekends. School lunches are free. My wife worked in education for years, and you could easily spot the kids who clearly weren't being fed at home often enough. So Hand to Hand identifies these kids who are likely to miss meals on the weekends when they're out of school, and we actually hand pack bags to send home with the kids over the weekends for their whole families. So we know the family and the kids specifically will have meals on those days. We have seen an unprecedented surge in registrants lately with all that's going on, not to get political at all because I hate to bring politics into my YouTube channel, but the fact is simple, people are missing meals, and I believe very strongly that there is absolutely no reason that we should live in the wealthiest country in the history of planet Earth and there are still hungry children. It doesn't make sense to me. So if you don't know how you can help, I'll leave a link to Hand to Hand and you can donate directly to them there. Do not donate to my YouTube channel or anything like that. I don't want to handle anyone's money. All donations to that link go directly to purchasing specific healthy and affordable foods, and it's a great way to relieve stress for hurting families and hungry kids during the holiday season specifically. And there's a good chance that your donation will lead to purchasing food items that I will personally be hand packing myself alongside my family. Anyways, thanks for listening. And if you choose to drop $1 or $5 or whatever into the bucket for hand-to-hand, just say so in the comments section on the honor system, and I will be sure to give you a personal, heartfelt thank you on behalf of the hungry families in my community specifically. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.